Hey, Happy New Year! How was your holiday? Previously, in Connect with Thomas, I invited Justin Lam from 360 Media to share his insights on how to scale your business. This week, we'll continue on three more things. One, what will happen to business owners in 2021? Two, how do you keep improving while staying on top of everything? And lastly, how do you attract and retain talented employees? And let's go.
Yeah, I think all business owners struggle with imposter syndrome. Even though they're at the top of their game, they always feel like they might be a fraud or they might not be as good as the next guy. But everybody brings their own experiences to the table. And the hard part is owning it. And when you own it and you really embody that love, people start to feel it. The energy in you shifts. The way you talk to people shift. The words you use, they shift. And they're so subtle that you don't notice it, but people around you notice it. And if you could think back, Thomas, when we first started with you, what type of words you were using and, what did it feel like when you're trying to talk to clients? And, there's times where you struggle and go, I don't understand why these people won't sign me. And now you'll have people inquire because they see you differently, that you're giving information, that you're confident in who you are. And you can open these conversations that lead you to somewhere greater. But it changes the dynamic, the energy that's around you, and no longer are you really having to swat people trying to nail a client. In fact, that they're kind of drawn to what it is that you're providing the world, the value that you're providing those people.
For sure. So let me switch the gears a little bit. So especially 2020, I think is a very challenging year for a lot of small business owners. Lots of mom and pop shops are facing a difficulty. So, what is your take on 2021? Any advice for small business owners?
Well, I think a lot of small business owners had a really tough time in 2020 because we had such a really great bull run in the economy. You could hang your shingle out and sell pretty much anything, and you would have been a success because money was in the economy. And when that all went away for that time being, you start to see where people are shaky. And I think a lot of people really need to take a look at the fundamentals of their business, right? And of course, there's some businesses, mine as well, like certain divisions of our business took massive hits. But it's about understanding how your business is positioned. And there are so many businesses that are operating on fumes, that they don't have gasoline in the tank. And that's scary. And I'm hoping that out of that realization is that, when things come back to normal, if they survive it all, is that they're going to take a hard look at the real mechanics of their business, the real nuts and bolts of what makes that business run, and learning to run better profits, so that they can bank it, not so much for them to spend it, but for them to keep it in the bank, to weather them through the storms. If you were to have this all over again in another year, the business that we're hurting now are going to hurt even more, and they're going to be out of the game. So it's really spending the time, not necessarily trying to advance your business, trying to reach the finish line first. But I really believe in an evergreen business. If you're a person who is in business for the long term, I believe in an evergreen business. And that means that you're filling up, and I use the analogy like a boat, like a cruise ship. You want to make sure that you have a really good ballast. The ballast is what keeps the boat up and floating. Like the bottom part of the boat needs to be stable. That's the stuff that comes in and out, the small cash transactions that are like fluid day to day out. Focus on getting those at a very high rate. So that way, when the big things come, that you have these microtransactions still happening, because people are going to still spend money. You just have to be creative on how it's going to be done, whether you're a restaurant or whether you're in the event industry. There's got to be a way that you can make microtransactions, and you just have to think long and hard about where those opportunities lie. And then from there, working on the bigger mechanics of your business, right? Like the profit centers, so to speak. And that's where you can shift and pivot and try different things. But if you're not going to be safe, and if you're not going to focus your attention on the core crux of your business to keep it afloat, keep the lights on, you're going to have a really rough 2021.
For sure. And the analogy that I talked to my client is pretty much a lot of us are driving a car with a pretty much a empty tank, with the warning lights.
Yeah. And
And you're just
and
praying
you
that
don't
the
know when
next
the
gas
gas
station is
station's
around the
coming,
corner.
right?
And probably, oh yeah, I know that gas station that I always go to is just down the corner. Hey, you know what? That gas station could be just, closed down. Maybe it's a maintenance, could be just another truck just filling another tank. We just don't know, right? So that's why I agree with you that always with some planning, kind of reflect, especially around this is like December 2020. I think it's also a good idea to kind of reflect back what did you achieve, what did you differently, how would you adapt to 2021.
Mhm.
So my next question will be, this is more for personal questions, because I know, Justin, I know you are the pretty much the owner of your business. You have to talk to people, you have to coach people, you have to take photos and video shootings. At the same time, I know you've been doing a lot of studyings, going investments, and also you have family as well to take care of. How did you manage all the time?
Well, one thing I learned really early on, and I can attribute this specifically to Tony Robbins, is the ability to parse out my time and to understand where the value lies, and being able to transfer knowledge to other people within our organization so that they can help me do my job more effectively. And you know, I think the hardest thing for a business owner is they're usually start off in a technician space. They're the person who does, whatever it is, whether you're a roofer, whether you're a plumber, financial planner, you're the one doing all the stuff all the time. So it's really hard to let go. It's really hard to like parse that out. For me, I really, really wanted to have freedom in my life. And it was something that I was deeply passionate about from a very, very early age. And all I did was focus on building systems, building things and taking what was in here in my brain and try to lay it out in a way that I could get that to somebody else to take that information and then run with that and then to rebuild and do those things, and of course hopefully make them better, right? Like, I'm not privy to say that my way or the highway. Obviously if we can progress and have somebody else do that, I want them to do that. But taking the stuff out of our brain and then being able to hand that off sequentially in a way that they could help me grow the business and move that forward allowed me to take time away from doing the technician work into doing other things, like looking at my marketing, looking at the strategy, developing our brand, educating myself, right? And education is such a big part of my life. I read books like nobody's business. I read articles. I consume things at a really high rate by comparison to average people. And so, I do those in chunks. I don't do it all in one go. It's not like I read a book one day. I read them in 10 minutes, 15-minute increments. I do exercise in 10 minutes, 15-minute increments every day, and I do it consistently. And here's the problem. Most people kind of get a jump start. It's like going to the gym, right? You get that gym membership and you go in it and you're in it for the first week. And then the week after you're so sore, you don't want to do it. You make an excuse. You don't want to go anymore. But the difference is for me to do it long term, doing a small chunk every day consistently over the course of the last 2 decades has allowed me to get to this place faster than it would have been for me to try to dive in, get frustrated, and stop completely. And so my advice to people is whatever you want to do, whatever you want as a goal in your life, chunk it out. Like if you want to build more revenue, look at what that looks like, break it all down, and then chunk them into 10, 15-minute things that you could do every day consistently, dedicated time. And over a whole year, that's a lot of time that you've added and allocated to it. And, life's not a race. I mean, the only person you have to beat is yourself, right? Because there's always going to be somebody above you and there's always going to be somebody below you. Business, it is an infinite game. You only play until you either exhausted of resources or another person comes in to play the game. So if you can win your own game, whatever it is in your own mind that you can be better every single day, you're always going to grow. You're always going to get there. And so I tell people, if you want the secret to my own success and where I've got is really allocating small chunks of time every day consistently and just being able to just work through it. It's easier. You tick off the boxes a lot more effectively.
For sure. And that also, because I'm actually reading a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Yes.
And I think 1% change every single day. I think you are just the living example of that. So thank you.
Well, definitely. The other book is really good, is Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And that's
Sure.
it's similar concept. It's nothing really new. This concept's been around forever. But it's funny that nobody really ever wants to think of applying it because it feels too long.
Mm-hmm.
The process feels too long. They would rather a quick fix, and that's the instant gratification part of our society now.
For sure. And then I do witness that you are actually working on the business, not in the business. And that is something that I think a lot of us need to learn from that. And I think, if I may say, part of the credit comes from your staff as well, too, because I know your staff both talented and very loyal as well, too, because I know actually almost all the staff work with you for a very, very long time. How did you find them and how did you motivate them?
Well, I've been very fortunate. I have a really amazing staff. Actually, one of my staff's birthday today, and but it's one of those things. It's like everything else. You ask about how do you keep your best friend for a long period of time. And the truth is that you care about them and you honor them and that you respect their person as their own individual. And when you do that, people feel valued and they stay with you. One of the things that I knew about myself very early on is that I'm a very loyal person, and I have a very high integrity threshold. And I choose to operate that way. And I don't hire quickly. I don't hire and fire. I spend my time because I rather look for individuals, really nice people that I would want to be friends with, that I think are quality individuals. And that's what I look for first. And in a small business, you have that opportunity, right? In a bigger business, in the larger enterprise, that sort of starts to waver a little bit when you go by the law of averages and the numbers. But at a very small capacity, your first few people should be really longevity partners, people that you should spend lots of time with. And if they couldn't pass the front porch test, like you couldn't see yourself hanging out with them for, decades, then they're probably not a really great hire. And you probably intuitively know that. And so you're either going to self-sabotage by saying, okay, well, I'm just going to make an exception for this one. You're going to end up biting yourself in the bum for it, right? So, I'm never quick to hire. I would rather hire well in advance and work to fill that person's plate than to hire because I need an emergency, because almost more often than not, you're going to make that big mistake and that starts to erode culture. But here, everybody really cares about each other. We have birthday parties. Like we say happy birthday to each other. We care, we go to bat for one another. And that level of care doesn't exist unless you exude it, right? Unless you model that. And as much as people hate to say it or see it, when you look back at the people who are around you, they are a reflection of who you are. And if you are not happy and you're disgruntled and you're pissed off at your staff, the chances are is you're pissed off at yourself. And that's a really key indicator at what concessions have you made that you don't like about yourself. Because I could tell you, the opposite is true here, is I love everybody that's here and I love the clients that we have. And that's the same. It's models the same. We attract that same type of clientele, and those people who aren't our bread and butter, like they aren't our clientele, aren't our tribe, they self-select out of the system really quickly. So we get quality individuals, and I can tell that because when my team goes out on our behalf, they're like, yeah, these are really awesome clients, they're really great. And our clients say the same, like these are like really great staff, they really care. And that's when you've got the right mix. Like that's when you have the secret formula. So don't fuck it up at that point, right? Like don't mess it up when you have the secret sauce.
For sure. Is it okay if you can tell us a little walk through how did you interview a person to know that if he is qualified in your standard?
Oh, okay. So I don't hire people conventionally on the tasks that they're able to complete. My philosophy is that I can almost teach you anything technical in my business. And if you can't do that, then you probably don't know your business very well. But I focus on the intangibles, the things that people have innate to them. So those are personal skills. That's being able to talk to people. That's the honesty, integrity portion. That's their care and love for other people. Things that you can't teach. They're just inbred. And so I focus 100% of my attention on the intangible aspects of an individual. And then from there, when I have that, then I go, okay, can this person do the job? Right. And then we go through and teach them, see how far they are and see how far I have to coach. And if I have a cohort of 4, then I'll take the best person for that. And if I've already narrowed down the personality, then I only need to see, well, which one out of them has the best technical expertise and which one has the drive and motivation that suits our environment. So, for me, at that point, it allows me to then have a really strong team who really gel with one another, and fits within the mold. And then, from there, I can teach the rest, right? I can share, or I can find somebody who is really good in one arena and that they can share that knowledge, right? And I think that's the important part, is that in the studio, we have different people with different expertises, and they transfer that knowledge back and forth.
For sure. No, that's good. That's good. So I want to end off my last question is clients that have questions about their business, their life, or, about marketing and branding. Where can I come to you?
You can always find us at www.360media.com. We also have a podcast that's out every Thursday. And we're going to be ending our first season soon. So you can catch at least the first 52.
Awesome. And I heard that you have a book coming out, right?
I'm working on a book. It is, we've broken ground. It's taken a long time to plan, but it's trying to take whatever is up in this big noggin of mine, trying to lay it down on a piece of paper. And really the hope is to impact at least 1,000 people with that book, to change the course of their business, to change the course of their life, and the choices that they make, and hopefully impact the communities that they serve, and make the world a better place. Because, our kids are growing up in this world, and I want my kid to grow up in a good world.
For sure. So I just wanted to end off with this. Thank you so much for staying here with me. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Justin Lam.
Well, thank you so much for having me today, and I really enjoyed it.